a week it has been in politics. Lots of surprises. Mike Castle is out. Christine O'Donnell is in. Lisa Murkowski was out, but maybe back in again today. She may actually run as an independent. But let's talk about all the aftershocks of all these shakeups, and will they be felt in November? And what about in 2012? We've got Democratic strategist Steve McMahon with us and Republican strategist Vin Weber. All right, great to talk to both of you. What a week it's been. The Washington Post has this great piece today by Karen Tumulty about the Republican Party. Are they now rethinking their playbook? Vin?
I don't think so. First of all, the Republican Party didn't dictate this playbook. The voters dictated this playbook. That's one of the things that always amuses me. People get all in an uproar about Christine O'Donnell winning here or Sharon Angle in Nevada. It's not as if there's some secret little cabal that foisted these people on us. The voters of those states chose them. I think that in the short...
but Finn, hold on a second. Let me just read from Karen Tumulty's piece, because I think she makes a very good point. She says this, quote, "The new force within the Republican Party is contemptuous of safe, pragmatic calculations for winning swing voters and offers no forgiveness for political compromises and ideological inconsistencies." Vin, I don't recall a Republican candidate lashing out against Karl Rove, denouncing what she called political cannibalism, and Karl Rove calling a candidate nutty.
Well, I've never met Christine O'Donnell, but she had a whole lot of stuff dumped on her that she was reacting to. I think that we nominated the wrong candidate in Delaware. I would have been for Mike Castle. I think he could have won. I don't think she's going to win. But she won fair and square. She didn't cheat her way into this position. And for the Republicans, whether it's my friend Karl Rove or anybody else, to treat her as contemptuously as they did, I can understand why she reacted that way. She won fair and square. The people in the Tea Party movement that I have met are not contemptuous. They are concerned about their country, and they have every right to express it.
Well, let me talk about how this affects the 2012 race and play for you Mitt Romney today before the Value Voters Summit, Steve, and get you to respond to that. Listen to Mitt Romney's attack on the president.
If only he had in fact been transparent and bipartisan and uniting, as he pledged in his campaign, then perhaps he could have delivered on his promise of yes, we can. Instead, we know all too well that no, he didn't.
I think part of his speech sort of fell flat even within that group, Steve, as I listened to it. But let me ask you, Mitt Romney, in many ways, is the establishment candidate within the Republican Party. Is that a big minus for him?
Well, I think it's a big minus for him to be the establishment candidate. I also think it's a minus for him to be somebody that has changed his positions and his principles so often, because the one point that you've made about the Tea Party movement, which I think we can all agree on, is they're a very principled group of people, and they don't have very much tolerance for politicians who wiggle around on issues and try to have it both ways. Mitt Romney is somebody who probably has done more of that than anybody else who's currently thinking about running for president. So I think the emergence of the Tea Party for Mitt Romney is not a very good development.
Quick response, Vin?
I'm a great admirer of Mitt Romney, and I think he'd be a fine president of the United States, but I think Steve probably has the politics of this right. Voters in Republican primaries are setting a very high standard and not forgiving past sins.
New York, if you were told that Delaware's Christine O'Donnell will become a hero to the Tea Party not because she will win, but because she will lose, or that Nevada's Sharon Angle, because of all her baggage, was exactly what the Tea Party was looking for, or that Alaska's Joe Miller got the backing of Tea Party Express exclusively because half-Governor Sarah Palin had vouched for him, then in our fifth story, you would at least be getting closer to the truth. After all, if the Tea Party Express doesn't care about vetting, who better to heed than the most startling product of non-vetting, the former vice presidential candidate, Ms. Palin? The Tea Party Express's fierce backing of Christine O'Donnell reported today, including $300,000 in advertising, crisply explained by Sal Russo, the founder of that political action committee. Quoting, "I heard pretty candidly her strengths and weaknesses. We knew what we were getting into. Would she be a great candidate in some years? Probably not. But in this year, she was a terrific candidate." In the extraordinary piece by Politico, Mr. Russo claims today that the Tea Party Express is adept at picking candidates who are aligned with the movement's core issues, and is not so concerned with everything else. But some Tea Party activists outside Tea Party Express PAC are less than enthusiastic. From the Maine state coordinator for the Tea Party Patriots, that's in the state of Maine, they haven't really looked into some of these candidates. It's enough that they say they believe in freedom. There are candidates in some states who are kind of gadflies who suddenly jumped on the bandwagon. The other darlings of the Tea Party Express include Alaska's Miller, whose main claim to fame was a failed effort in 2008, along with then-Governor Palin, to force out the state GOP chairman. Miller also lost his 2004 bid to win a House seat in the Alaska State Legislature. But for Mr. Russo, quote, Governor Palin vouched for Joe Miller that he was the real deal, and we took her word for it. Pure poetry it is that Sarah Palin, the product of presidential candidate John McCain's non-vetting, would recommend the 5 o'clock shadowy Joe Miller to the Tea Party Express. Meantime, the Republican incumbent who Miller defeated, Senator Lisa Murkowski, reportedly set to announce her intention to run as a write-in candidate as early as tonight. Murkowski's decision would create a three-way race among her, Miller, and the Democratic nominee, Sitka Mayor Scott McAdams. But back to the Tea Party Express's favored candidates. When Politico asked Mr. Russo if the Tea Party would claim success if both Sharon Angle and O'Donnell lost, he answered, quote, you don't always have to win elections to change the body politic. George McGovern and Eugene McCarthy had a profound effect on American politics, and they both lost. Goldwater lost, but he gave birth to Reagan. Let's bring in the author of Politico's main piece on this today, senior political reporter Ken Vogel. Ken, good evening.
Hey, great to be with you, Keith.
McGovern, McCarthy, Barry Goldwater. A, really? B, the premise is if it doesn't matter if they get elected, it matters who comes after them. Is there more to it than that? Are the backers of these candidates making personal gain off the candidacies by establishing themselves, even if the candidates fall by the wayside?
Absolutely. The Tea Party Express and many of the leaders of the Tea Party movement who have been instrumental in the victories of Christine O'Donnell and Sharon Angle, two Tea Party candidates who won Republican nominations and reduced the Republicans' chances of retaking the Senate. These groups and these individuals have seen their own profiles and their own earning potential and fundraising power boosted by virtue of their critical roles in these campaigns. Of course, this is all music to the ears of Democrats who are saying, hey, if you want to elect these people, pull the Republican Party to the right, possibly reshape it for some future election 20 years down the road, which is how long it took the Goldwater revolution to yield the Reagan revolution. That's great by Democrats who are eager to run against these Tea Party candidates.
Is the non-vetting of these candidates that you described today, is that reckless? Is it knowingly indifferent? Or is this like how Bialystock and Bloom went through the play scripts and the producers?
Well, it's almost like they were intoxicated by the momentum. They got this Sharon Angle win. Now, to be fair, they did have a background with Sharon Angle, who, in spite of them knowing a little bit more about her, has been revealed to have substantial pieces of her track record that are going to make her a target for Democratic attacks. And we've seen from polls make her something less than the best candidate to take on Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid in that race in Nevada. However, once they won that, they were on a roll, and they were looking for the next candidate, the next big upset. Sarah Palin recommended them that they endorse Joe Miller, this little-known candidate who had previously lost a state legislative race in which he ran sort of as a moderate, according to his opponent. They seized on that. He won. He beat Senator Lisa Murkowski in a huge upset in the Republican primary for Senate up there in Alaska. And then they looked for the next one. It was Christine O'Donnell. They endorsed her. They subsequently acknowledged they were unaware that she had she had not graduated from college. She did not have a college diploma, that she had some problems with back campaign debts that were still owed. They said they weren't aware of that, but they still thought that she was the best candidate. So whether it's in the best interest of the Tea Party Express and some of the Tea Party groups that are endorsing these candidates, it may be a different calculation than what is in the best interest of the Republicans and perhaps of the Tea Party. An element of there's a lack of institutional knowledge within the Tea Party movement. It's not just these big groups that are out there, many of which we should point out have been able to recast themselves and be successful within the Tea Party movement because the activists aren't aware that they have a track record in Republican politics. The Tea Party Express is a group that was formerly called Our Country Deserves Better. It's a PAC in Sacramento, California, that supported John McCain, who is anathema to Tea Partiers. They hate John McCain. Nonetheless, this group was able to recast themselves as the leading group in the Tea Party movement because many of the activists in the Tea Party are new to politics and didn't know that this group had this background, or that Dick Armey, the leader of another prominent Tea Party group, Freedom Works, was the House Majority Leader and then a lobbyist who worked for pharmaceutical companies. So the fact that many of these candidates who have seized the Tea Party mantle to great success were able to do so in spite of having run different types of campaigns unsuccessfully in previous years, like Christine O'Donnell, who campaigned as a social conservative, and we now see her re-embracing that mantle, is a testament to the lack of sort of political savvy, frankly, of some of the Tea Party activists. But
to get back in what amounts to breaking news from Tea Party Citizen Zero, Sarah Palin is at the Reagan dinner in Iowa rather than at the Values Voters Summit in Washington, and has just said, been either asked or has just made a statement about 2012. I want to read it to you and get your reaction. If the American people were to be ready for someone who is willing to shake it up and willing to get back to time-tested truths and help lead our country towards a more prosperous and safe future, and if they happen to think I was the one, if it were best for my family and for our country, of course I would give it a shot, she says about running in 2012. There are a lot of ifs in that one.
Yeah, there are, and she's positioned herself in kind of a non-traditional way if she were to launch a presidential campaign. But there's no doubt that the option is available to her, as she has proved through some of these primaries that she has incredible clout within the sort of Tea Party wing of the Republican Party and of the conservative base. And certainly if she were to run, she would be formidable just by virtue of the Tea Party activists, whether they are spectacularly unsuccessful in the midterm elections and cost Republicans control of the Senate, or are successful and deemed to sort of have changed politics in much the same way that Mr. Russo from the beginning of the segment of the Tea Party Express predicts that they will.
Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska was beaten in the Republican Senate primary, the primary for her own Senate seat this year. Republican voters instead narrowly picked a far-right candidate named Joe Miller to be the Republican candidate for Murkowski's seat. Lisa Murkowski has not taken that loss well. After refusing to endorse Joe Miller or do any sort of Republican unity events, Murkowski approached David Hasse, the Libertarian candidate in Alaska, to see if he would give her his line on the ballot so she could try to retain her seat, but as a Libertarian. Hasse and the Libertarians said no. Then, 2 days ago, Murkowski's office said she would decide by today whether to run a write-in campaign for her own seat. Here it is Friday, but the 4-hour time difference between the East Coast and Anchorage means we don't yet officially know the answer. That said, there are reports this hour that when the Alaska Republican senator reveals her big decision tonight, she will be announcing that she's going to run for re-election as a write-in. That means her name will not be printed on the ballot, but she'll try to get Alaskans to vote for her anyway by spelling out Lisamurkowski. Remember the I when they go to vote. Now, this might be great news for the Democratic nominee for Senate, Scott McAdams. If all the other candidates are likely to split the center-right and far-right vote, that could pave the way for McAdams to win. Possible. Except Nate Silver of the 538 blog at the New York Times, someone who crunches the numbers on these things better than anybody, reports tonight that even as a write-in candidate, Lisamurkowski might still have a really good shot to win this thing.
Let me finish tonight with a thought about the challenge facing the Republican Party. That challenge is Sarah Palin. There's no doubt in the world that she leads a powerful political movement in this country, or that she carries tremendous clout in terms of picking Republican candidates. When she speaks, she carries weight. If she endorses, it's like a shot of adrenaline in a campaign. But what about Sarah Palin herself? What about her as a candidate for national office, either president or vice president, or in a major cabinet post like Secretary of State or Defense? There's the rub. Ask Mitt Romney, does he think deep down that Sarah Palin has the right stuff to lead this country in a troubling, complicated world? Ask the same of Tim Pawlenty or any of the other serious Republican hopefuls for 2012. Do they believe in Sarah Palin's abilities to lead this country in perilous times, to answer that 3 o'clock in the morning call and make the right decision? Do they buy all this talk of hers that all America needs in this second decade of the 21st century are common sense conservative solutions, that a regular person with regular off-the-shelf answers can deal with the tricky, complex questions of economics, science, and international relations now before the country? This is the problem for Republicans. The person now leading the party in terms of popular influence can't pass muster with the party's established leaders. How can you win the love of the Tea Partiers if you don't believe in the presidential ability of their hero? Would Sarah Palin make a good president? As long as Romney and Pawlenty and the other would-be Republican nominees pray not to be asked, the party has a problem at its core. And the moment they can speak the phrase President Sarah Palin and not have them give them some pause, how long from that moment will their own people still believe in them?